Hey, so in this video, I want to talk a little bit about trauma brain and some of my experiences with that. It has been very interesting as I wake up to all the signs of the trauma brain and the impact it has had on me. So, there have been many, many situations in my life that have contributed to this. It's not just one thing or one thing here, one thing there. It's not just the religion. It's not just my father's passing or the separation of families. It's all of it grouped together, and they like layer themselves. And one thing that was very like a slap in the face to me was I did not realize until recently that I had never grieved my father's passing. I was in the hospital. I was 7 years old when my father died. And I didn't get to say goodbye to him. I didn't get to grieve him. I did not get to attend any of his services. I was alone. I was with family members, but I did not get to be a part of any of the funeral or the burial or any of that of my father. And so that was one thing that has been coming up for me. And especially with it being November, he passed in November. And for many years, I would get really bad pneumonia, which is what I was hospitalized for at the time of his death. Or I would just get a really bad lung condition in November every year for a very long time. And when I started to wake up to the realization that I had buried this down there in the depths of my soul, and I hadn't dealt with it. I thought I dealt with it, the time passed and I could talk about it without crying, but that did not mean I had dealt with it. I have never allowed myself to really feel that pain, to feel that loss. Every time it would come up, I would just push it aside, or when it started feeling too messy or ooey or gooey, like I was going to start getting emotional, I would find something to do some busy work, which was not very helpful. However, as I am going through this process, and even to speak about it, it does bring up a lot of past hurt, pain, drama, all the stuff, like layers like an onion. And, my brain darts from, well, what about this incident? And what about that incident? And this over here and that over there. But as the layers start to come off, it's becoming more evident to me that I never learned how to deal with or process my feelings, my fear, my hurt, grief, any of the deep emotions that we feel. So it's very painful in a way. And before I was very aware of what was going on, I would have these phases of forgetfulness. I would go to the pantry to get something, and I would forget what I went there to get. And it was getting so frustrating. I was so upset with myself. And here again, I wasn't nice to myself. I was hard on myself. And I thought I could just, by dang, force my way through it. I could require myself to just push through and do it. And it got to the point to where I was so shut down. I was physically, I was numb. Mentally, I was so shut down, I could not deal with anything. I couldn't take any weird noises. I could not listen to music or audios or people speaking, any of the audiobooks. I couldn't take it. Anything that was input that I felt like I had to do something. I had to change me. I had to do something. I had to be this other way, or, speak like this, walk like this, do this, have this kind of an energy around you. All of it. It was so much for my brain, and I wanted to scream. And I never allowed myself to. I never allowed for that energy to move through me. And the anger, all that it's supposed to be like a match, where you light it and it explodes, burns down, and then it's done. It's not meant to sit and fester inside. Well, I did not understand that. May had no knowledge of what her pushing these feelings and emotions down was doing to her. And recently, I've had some very eye-opening experiences because I am starting to allow a crack in the shell of all of this trauma, and it's starting to come up. And there are days that I honestly cannot face the world. I cannot speak civil. I cannot have to answer questions. If somebody calls me and needs something done or needs something fixed, I just think I'm going to go absolutely crazy. And if the kids are not responding how I want them to respond, if I have to keep repeating what I'm asking them, I seriously feel like my fuse is blowing and you can see smoke coming out of my ears. And I do the best I can to not frustrate with them, to not allow them to know how frustrating and I just feel like I'm about to lose it. And I try to not let them see that and deal with it in a healthy way, which I have been starting to walk and move the energy that way, because that is something I can do, and I can walk out of the situation. The kids will be fine. They're old enough to tend themselves, and get out and move that energy. And sometimes I feel like I want to scream and let it out, or I want to just cry. But honestly, when I want to cry, it gets about to my throat and it can't come out. It is a trained behavior of myself that when these emotions come up, push those back down. Do not express those. Do not voice them. Do not give any validation to those emotions. And I am learning. Totally wrong. Beep, beep, wrong answer. Go back, redo, give voice. Allow them to process. Allow them to flow through me. They are not who I am. They are what I am feeling in the moment. This has been so huge for me. And it's definitely a step-by-step journey. And right at this point, I feel like there's just a crack in the shell. There's so much more to this. And it does make me wonder, what am I going to require of myself? What is it going to require of me to allow myself the space to heal through this? To feel the emotions, to feel whatever pain it is, and allow it to pass through me and not become me. So all of these things that I'm doing are helping me to be more aware when I push a feeling down, and helping me to not push them down, but deal with them in a positive, healthy way. Well, maybe not so positive, but it's better than destroying something or, being abusive in any way. But like for me to give voice to it. Some of the things that I have found that really soothe me is just taking a soak. Shut the door, turn on some music, give myself a brain break where I don't have to be listening to something that is building my character or building me or teaching me skills or any of that. Just something that I don't have to glean anything out of other than pure feel good, and to not set a time limit on myself, to allow myself to just take the time that I need to relax, enjoy, and be okay with that. It has been one of the biggest things I have ever learned in my life. And I'm getting there. It feels like a slow process, but things are changing. Things are shifting. And it feels so good to be able to acknowledge, over here, I was hurt, I'm suffering, I felt all that stuff, and allow it to go. And now I can acknowledge I'm actually starting to feel better. I am starting to see things in a different light. It doesn't feel like everything is so dark and so heavy and hopeless. It feels like, you know what? Today I can get up and I'm happy. Things like that really, really do make a difference. And for me to notice when I'm really feeling happy. And I'm sad to say there have been a long time, many, many times where I didn't feel happy. Years where I didn't feel happy, where I felt like there was nothing to live for. There was no hope. So for me to be where I am and look back on that and give voice to it and allow it to process through me has been huge. So I hope if anyone is dealing with this, that they reach out, that they get some help, whatever modality it is that they need, because all the suffering and pain and all this does inside of us is manifest in a different way. It will come out in a different form, something that I will have no control over. So with that, thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.